Friendships, betrayal, jealousy, ambition, and revenge are some of the many topics that FMA touches upon. However, to me, the most potent of the subjects explored in FMA was the subject of ambition and sacrifice. As humans, we all have desires. Whether our desires be governed by lust, greed, or envy, we are all in some way consumers of our urges. And this notion of human nature is something that FMA explores masterfully. For starters, let's start with young Edward Elric. His ambition is to revive his mother, something that he knows he should not venture into, but due to his naivete, he is not worried about the consequences, and irresponsibly drags his younger brother Alphonse to aid him in his careless act. Soon after, the Elric brothers meet their alchemist teacher Izumi, who teaches them the art of alchemy, but warns them about the dangers of attempting human transmutations. Still, after being warned, Edward's ambitious nature clouds his judgment, as he sees his goal as a priority over the means. Now, with the skills he acquired from his teacher, Ed attempts to bring his mother back to life, which is one thing he soon regrets. After coming face to face with a horrific flesh monster, losing an arm and a leg, and having the body of his brother lost, Edward soon realizes the error of his ways. These consequences are all sacrifices that Edward Elric made to fulfill his naive ambition. But at the end of it all, were these sacrifices worth the cost? Because of Edward's recklessness, the innocent Alphonse Elric, who was just an abiding party, got the worst punishment. Reduced to a hollow armor, Alphonse can no longer touch, can no longer eat, can no longer sleep, and now, when he looks in the mirror, he sees a monster. Can he even call himself human anymore? Now, this is the first, but certainly not the last time we see the price of ambition and its consequences played out in FMA. I could go on and on for hours about the many ambitions possessed and sacrifices made by the illustrious cast of characters in FMA, but I assure you I will make videos each focused on a specific character. But today, I want to focus primarily on the Elric brothers. The great author Robert Greene highlights in his book The Laws of Human Nature that humans are by their nature irrational, narcissist, envious, self-sabotaging, prideful, and have potential of encompassing many other toxic traits. But the reason for all this toxicity stems from desire. The biggest conflicts of history all begin with a human desire. A desire for power causes world wars. A desire to control oil causes wars overseas, and even dating back to Greek epics such as the Trojan War, those conflicts stem from men's desire for women. Whether we like it or not, we, as human beings, are puppeted by our desires. If we want the hot girl, we do whatever it is in our power to attract her, whether it be by buying the best clothes, getting a good job to get good money, purchasing a fancy car. We do anything in order to present ourselves as valuable to the sex we are attracted to gain their approval and validation. But this notion of desire doesn't just end with lust. We also go to extreme lengths for others to either validate us or envy us. We rarely self-improve for ourselves, but for the approval of others. These aforementioned concepts of human desires controlling our lives are brilliantly realized through Hiromi Arakawa's work in Fullmetal Alchemist. The ambitions of Edward and Alphonse change because of their desires. At first, like discussed before, their desires is to bring their mother Trisha back to life. So their ambition becomes to learn the art of alchemy and to perform a human transmutation. Once they are dealt the horrific consequences of what they have done, Edward's desire changes to righting his wrong by bringing Alphonse's body back, which changes his ambition to finding the philosopher's stone. Now, once Edward finds the research by Marco to make a philosopher's stone, Edward discovers that the price of making a philosopher's stone is the sacrifice of human lives. And unable to stomach this reality, Edward changes his ambition once again to find an alternative way to bring his brother's body back. Now, to drive the point home about the price of ambition, I wanted to discuss the endings of both Fullmetal Alchemist 2003 and Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, to preface, because I don't want the rest of this video to be a synopsis of the plot and want to focus more on analyzing the show's themes, I will skip over major plot details to get to the point. If you believe that I'm missing some important details, I apologize in advance, but I have to for time and convenience sake. So let's start with FMA 2003. With a series of complicated events, Ed and Al acquire the Philosopher's Stone, but are horrified at the cost because their acquisition of the stone resulted in Scar sacrificing himself and the lives of Ames's soldiers at the city of Ishval. The Fuhrer Bradley, or better known as the Homunculus Pride, frames the death of the soldiers as a conspiracy done by Scar with the help of the Elric brothers, so now the Elric brothers are not out as fugitives. So after a few plot details later, Edward and Alphonse are engaged in a fight with the remaining homunculi. Ed faces Envy, and Envy reveals his true form being Ed's deceased half-brother, aka the son of Hohenheim and Dante. Envy then reveals the reason as to why he hates the Elric brothers and Hohenheim so much. It's because he believes Hohenheim abandoned him and Dante for a new family. In a fit of rage, Envy transmutes his arm into a blade and kills Edward Elric. Alphonse then attempts to revive Edward with the remaining parts of the Philosopher's Stone, and offers himself as a sacrifice. Then Alphonse is at the Gate of Truth with Envy and sees Edward's soul, and Envy enters the gate to cross to the other side to find Hohenheim. Edward awakens with his body restored, and as a result of Al's actions, Al is stuck at the Gate of Truth for their foreseeable future. Upset at this result, Edward offers his life to bring Al back, and as a consequence, Ed is transported to the world at the other side of the gate. And now Edward is stuck at the parallel world with Hohenheim, and Alphonse is back to his normal self in Amestris. However, as a result of Ed and Al's actions, the memories that Al accumulated on the 4-year journey he shared with his brother and friends are all gone, and the last thing he remembers is a failed human transmutation of his mother. After both brothers are dealt this fate, they both resolve to see each other again. Now, that's the ending of the 2003 anime, but the real ending concludes in the FMA movie Fullmetal Alchemist Conqueror of Shambhala. So the world that Edward and Hohenheim are sent to is beyond the gate, and alchemy does not exist in this world, hence they can no longer use it. Instead, physics develops instead of alchemy. Moreover, this world mostly resembles the real world, as the place that Edward and Hohenheim reside in is literally called Germany. In Edward's current world, he lives inside the parallel version of Alphonse, who is a rocket engineer and sick, a girl named Noah, who is a gypsy woman who resembles Rose, an alternate version of Officer Hughes who's still alive, an alternate version of Gracia Hughes, and the parallel version of Fuhrer Bradley, who is a Jewish film director who aids Edward on his mission. Hohenheim goes missing, but we later find out he is captured by the science group in Germany. This deviant group seeks to use Hohenheim's knowledge of alchemy to cross to Amestris and use their alchemic power for weapons of war. Now, Hohenheim and Envy, in the form of a dragon, are captured by a villainous group of scientists, and this group uses them in their contraption to open up the gate and send soldiers. At the other side of the gate in Amestris, we see Rose, Armstrong, and an older Alphonse at the receiving end of the attack, who attempt to protect Ishval from the invading forces. They are successful, but when the soldiers are returning through a portal, Al attaches a part of his soul to a suit of armor. Back in the parallel world, Edward gets tricked into opening the gate and the deceased soldiers return. Amongst the suit of armor appears Al, and Ed and Al escape. Not being able to stay too long because of the effects of his alchemy wearing off, Ed and Al share a brief moment of happiness. Then Alphonse leaves, but the brothers' resolve to reunite strengthens. Fast forward, and Wrath goes to the underground city with Alphonse and fights Gluttony. Wrath then offers himself as a sacrifice alongside Gluttony so Al can transmute them to open the gate. At the same time, at the gate at Edward's world, the gate is being opened with Envy and Hohenheim as sacrifices. The leader of the scientists crosses the gate to Amestris and causes chaos and intends on destroying Amestris in fear of alchemy. Then after the two brothers meet, with the aid of Colonel Mustang, they defeat the leader. After their victory, Ed comes to the conclusion that in order to prevent any more threats coming through the gate, he must make the sacrifice to leave everything behind and close the gate forever from the other side, while somebody, presumably Al, closes it on the side in Amestris. Realizing his sacrifice and how it hurts the people he grew up with, Ed sends his regards and leaves Al without knowing that Alphonse followed him and Colonel Mustang was the one to close the gate in Al's place. Then crossing the gate, Al not only has his body back, but his memories returned. After realizing what they've done, the brothers are happy that they're together with their bodies back, and decided that leaving their home was a sacrifice made to make up for their consequential actions in the past. The brothers decide to start a new life, all the while abandoning their old one. Now that's the ending of FMA 2003. Now for the ending of FMA Brotherhood. Thank goodness this ending is much more simpler. All that happens is Edward defeats father with the aid of his comrades and sacrifices his alchemy for Al's body back. Much more simple. Now, although my summary of the ending of FMA 2003 was long, I believe it was necessary to drive home a point. What I wanted to get across is all the trauma and difficulties Edward and Alphonse partook in to get Al's body back. And at the end of it all, what they were left with was nothing. These brothers literally sacrificed everything: their home, their family, their friends, their memories, their alchemy. And now, they had to start their lives again from scratch. Therefore, the point I'm trying to make is that no matter what these brothers went through, did their efforts avail? Some might say yes, because Alphonse's body and memories are back and the brothers are reunited. But then I say, is the brothers' reunion worth the cost of losing everything in the process? Now in Brotherhood, the ending is not as depressing, as the only thing that Ed has to sacrifice is his alchemy. However, given the plot, that is still pretty substantial. Alchemy, in the world of Amestris, is everything, and Edward's life, identity, and journey revolves around alchemy. I mean, his name is the Fullmetal Alchemist. So although Brotherhood's ending is not as depressing, Ed still gave up everything that he identified with to save his brother. But this just goes to show you how the law of equivalent exchange explored by Arakawa beautifully explores the price for ambition, because in both cases, Edward ends up sacrificing everything to make up for his mistake. Because of Edward's ambition, the cost he pays is his sacrifice of everything. But that's just the endings. The amount of grief, heartbreak, and hardships that the Elric brothers went through on their journey can drive anybody crazy. Whether it be Hughes's death, fighting the homunculi, deciphering Marco's notes, facing father and the military, Ed and Al have been through utter hell. Their journey, although having some highs, is still overall anything but pleasant. So the point I'm trying to make is that what the law of equivalent exchange exhibits is a notion that there is a price for everything. In order to gain something, you must offer something of equal value. In the case of the Elric brothers, what they desired was their mother back, but what they paid for was everything. So all in all, how does this lesson of equivalent exchange bring value to us? Well, it can teach us that if we do not keep our ambition and desires in check, the price we may pay can be disastrous. As humans, often we are driven by these fantasies that stem from a vile place, such as insecurity or envy. We want the biggest and the best, sometimes to overcompensate our insecurities or in spite of other people. That's just one example, but I'm sure you get the idea. Furthermore, you can see the same ideal presented with Edward Elric when he attempts the human transmutation. This fantasy or desire to bring back his mother stems from his immaturity to accept death as a natural part of life. And because of his immaturity to accept the natural process, his naivete, pride, and stubbornness are all attributes that he encompasses, which eventually contributed to his downfall. Will Smith, in one of his interviews, uttered a saying that is often said by the Navy SEALs, and that saying is, "Everybody wants to get to heaven, but nobody wants to die to get there." And I truly believe that this saying perfectly encapsulates Arakawa's message that everything has a cost, and for great ambition, there are great consequences. You look at these superstars like Will Smith, Michael Jordan, and many other greats as being the apex for success and fame. However, we never see the dark side of their careers. we never see the relentless hard work, trials and tribulations, early mornings and late nights that these individuals go through. And I guarantee that 98% of the population wouldn't even be able to withstand a tenth of the hardships that these individuals go through. So all in all, I just want to state that sometimes what we want is sometimes not what is best for us. For example, yes, Edward lost his mother and his father, but he failed to realize the family he did have in Winry, Izumi, and possibly later, Colonel Mustang, Hawkeye, Ling, Officer Hughes, and many others. Sometimes our ambitions and desires blind us to see the real treasures that are around us. Instead of focusing on money, girls, and status, realize what you have is plentiful. Having a family, having supportive friends, heck, even having a house, water, and food in the West is a privilege that many do not have. Now, I know I've been rambling on for a bit, so I'll end the video with this. What we can learn from FMA is that everything has a cost, and because of our ambition and desires, we fail to see the consequences of that cost. Hence, when the cost is already paid, it's too late, and sometimes we can end up losing everything just because of ego. And sometimes we must realize what we have currently, such as family and friends, is just enough. But that's just my opinion.